Hi everyone and welcome to Classic Gamer 74, episode 99. I'm your host, Anthony Gamer.
And I'm Larry the Lion.
And this is AVP 2. Now for those of you that are new to our channel, welcome. And for those of you that have been around for a while, you know what AVP is. So for those of you that are new to the channel, I'm going to explain it to you real quick. AVP is what we call arcade versus port. Now, a lot of the classic video games were actually released in the arcade first. And then eventually, some of them, not all, were released on home game consoles or computers. And that's what we do in some of these episodes. We take an arcade game and we compare it to some of the ports of that various game. Well, in this episode, what we're going to do is compare some arcade games to their ports, but these arcade games were only ported one or two times.
Back in the day of the early 80s, it was common that when a game would be ported, it would be ported to the three main game systems of the day. The Atari 2600, the Intellivision, and ColecoVision.
And then once in a while, the Magnavox Odyssey 2.
And then, of course, it was not uncommon to port some arcade games to the various computers of the time, such as the PC or using MS-DOS,
or the Apple II computers,
or the Commodore 64.
Now sometimes games would be ported to some systems but not to others. And then other times they would be ported to several game systems. A good example of that would be something like Frogger, that was ported to just about every game system and computer in the world. But again, we go back to 83 and 84 and we talk about the video game crash. And because of that video game crash, a lot of games that had been planned to be ported to multiple consoles were only ported to a few.
Or sometimes not at all.
Right, and today we're going to look at those few games that were ported to only one or two consoles, or computer as it were be. You ready to get started?
Whenever you are.
Alright, let's do it.
And our first game for today is Circus Charlie. This was an action game from Konami from 1984. In this game, you take on the role of a clown named Charlie, and you go through 6 different circus-themed mini-games. Now, I'll be perfectly honest, I did not discover this game till kind of recently. None of the arcades I went to as a child had this game, but I'm really glad that I did discover it, because I really have had a lot of fun playing it, and to be honest, it's a very challenging game. You'd think, though, that this would be kind of a fun, kids game or something, but oh, don't let the cute cabinet and graphics fool you. This is a tough game.
Yeah, you said it. One thing also that's interesting is, as cool as this game was, you'd think that game companies would have rushed to port it, but strangely enough, this game was not ported back in the day. I was truly surprised. I really thought that it was going to get ported to every home console in existence. Rumor has it, of course, that it was going to be ported to the Atari 2600 and Intellivision and ColecoVision possibly, but it never was.
Right you are, Larry. Surprisingly, the game itself wasn't ported until 2 years after it was released. What you are looking at here is the first port that was released in 1986 for the Famicom in Japan, and this version is pretty close to the arcade game. One of the biggest differences is that it actually only has 5 mini-games, as they eliminated the trampoline level.
Alright, next up we have the Commodore 64 version that was released in 1987. Just like the Famicom version, this one is missing the trampoline level.
Yeah, that's true. I'm not really sure why that was omitted from both of these games. It may have been a memory issue. It's really hard to say. Anyway, this was a fun game for me, especially because this was one of those games where I was kind of living vicariously through a video game.
How's that?
Well, many people out there who don't know me might not know that I used to be a clown.
Oh, yeah. Used to be?
Very funny. Although I was a clown, I wasn't a circus clown, I was in a clown ministry. And even if I had been a circus clown, the tricks that Charlie does in this game, I would never have done.
Yeah, you got a point there. Anyway, what was I going to say? Oh, yeah. It's been rumored for quite a while that somebody, one of the great homebrew programmers of our time, I'm not really sure who, have been planning on making a port of this for the Atari 2600, but I don't know if that's just talk or if they've actually done it. Anyway, if a port does get released, we will be the first to let you know on this channel.
And next up, from 1981, from Atari, we have Tempest, designed by Dave Thoyer. Tempest is a tube shooter game that uses the beautiful vector graphics, as you can see from looking at it right here. This is also the favorite game of Matt Reichert, who is a living, breathing Atari encyclopedia, and is also the curator of AtariProtos.com and a friend to this channel.
Yes, we are very thankful for the help and assistance that Matt has given this channel over the time that we've been running. Anyway, the game itself was very popular and loved by fans worldwide. As a matter of fact, the whole story behind the Polybius legend more than likely comes from Tempest itself.
That's true, and we're not even going to go there with the whole Polybius thing. That has been covered by just about every other channel in history, so we're not even going to go there. Anyway, as wildly popular as this game was, the fact remained that it used vector graphics, which at the time were very, very hard to replicate on a home console. With that in mind, there were two ports that were attempted. One for the Atari 2600, which, I'll just put it this way, it probably shouldn't have been attempted, and one for the 5200, neither of which were released. Now what you're looking at right here is the only official port of Tempest, and that is for the Atari ST computer in 1989. As you can see, they were able to replicate the vector graphics to a point. I mean, it's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but it's not bad.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it could have been a lot better, but it really could have been a lot worse.
Yep. But I do have some good news. For those of you that have a working Atari 5200 computer, I have some real exciting news.
So the big news is, those of you that have a working Atari 5200 and you always wanted to have Tempest, well, guess what? You can get it now. AtariAge.com has got together with the original game programmer for the Atari 5200 version of Tempest and has released the game as it was intended to be released. So for those of you that have that prototype that looks pretty cool but doesn't have any hit detection, I mean, yeah, what's the point of playing a game with no hit detection? Exactly. And so if you'd like to have your own copy of Tempest for the Atari 5200, head over to AtariAge.com right now, where you can pick up that game brand new as it was intended for the Atari 5200. You'll find the link in the description below.
Okay, and next up we have The Simpsons from 1991 from Konami. This was a beat-em-up game. Now, in this game, you took on the role of one of the four Simpsons, Bart, Lisa, Homer, and Marge, as you were trying to rescue Maggie, who was kidnapped by Mr. Smithers, who had just robbed a jewelry store.
Now, that sure doesn't make much sense.
Well, what does it?
Why would, Mr. Burns send Mr. Smithers to rob a jewelry store when he's probably one of the richest guys in the world?
I don't know. Don't try to find plot holes in a video game.
Okay, you got a point there.
Regardless, this game was quite popular, and you could find it in just about every arcade or store, for that matter. Believe it or not, though, as popular as this game was, it was only ported out 2 times. Anyway, if you'd like to see this game played all the way through, head over to our Patreon page. You'll find the link in the description below, and you don't have to become a patron to check out the video. However, while you're there, please consider becoming a Patreon for this channel. Alright, what you're looking at right here is the MS-DOS port of The Simpsons. There was also a version ported to the Commodore 64 computer, but it's pretty much identical. The game is about as close of a port as you're going to be able to get. The only main problem with this game, or should I say something that was actually left out from the arcade, were the voices. What really surprised me, though, was as popular as this game was, it wasn't ported out to the Sega Genesis or to the Super Nintendo.
Yeah, that's a good question. It may have been a licensing issue.
That's true. Although they did release several of those Bart games, such as Bart vs. the Space Mutants and Bart vs. the World for Nintendo, but again, we'll probably never know. In 2012, the PlayStation Network briefly had the game available for download. So hopefully someday this will get ported out again, maybe in some sort of game compilation. Alright, and next up from 1986 we have Donkey Kong 3. Now in this game you take on the role of Stanley, who is a bug man. Donkey Kong has taken refuge in his greenhouse and is now up to Stanley to stop the ape from stirring up any more insects that will soon destroy his flowers. Stanley saves the flowers by spraying bug spray at Donkey Kong. Now this game was a huge departure from the typical Donkey Kong universe, as Mario and Donkey Kong Jr. and or Pauline, who would never make another appearance again, period, were not in this game.
Right, and although this game was kind of received favorably by most critics, it was not very popular with fans.
That's true, as at the time, people weren't all that crazy about it. I remember seeing it in an arcade when I went on vacation, and I'm like, what the heck is this? And I played it, and I didn't think it was that bad, but yeah, I kind of missed Mario and, Pauline and the typical Mario stories that this one kind of veered away from.
Now, surprisingly, or should I say not surprisingly, the game was only ported out one time, and that is for the NES.
That's true. As you can see, it pretty much follows the original arcade game about as close as you're going to be able to get. Although, when Stanley dies, the bugs don't come down and eat him. I think they kind of thought that was a little rough for Nintendo's family-friendly image. In recent years, the game has been made available in different compilations for the 3DS and for the Virtual Wii U. Now, I'm not one to spread rumors.
Yeah, you are.
Okay, but anyway, according to a rumor that I heard from a very reliable source, a certain homebrew programmer is going to make a version of this game for the Atari 2600. When that will be available, I'm not sure, but as soon as I get news, I will let you guys know. Alright, next up from 1981, you have Matar. This is a very strange but fun game. Now, in this maze game, you take on the role of a ape in the odd levels, and you're trying to get away from these copies, or headhunters. In the even levels, you take on the role of a painter, or rustler, and you're going against pigs. You are attempting to move around a fixed rectangular lattice, and trying to visit each area, filling in the gaps as you go. You have a joystick to move around, of course, and then you have a special jump that you use with the button, and you have 3 of them to use per level. Now, even though this was made by a major game company like Konami, it was only officially ported one time.
Just once?
Right, and that was for the Atari 2600 in 1982 by Parker Brothers. And you're looking at that right now. You are looking at the level where you play the ape, and you're going against the headhunters. Now, as I said, it's a pretty fun game, but like I said, for reasons I can't really explain, it was only ported that one time officially. Notice I said officially.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
I say unofficially because in 1987, the Commodore 64 computer came out with this version of the game, I guess, or a clone, called Matar, where the A is simply changed to an O. The graphics are kind of hyped up a little bit, but essentially it's the same game.
Well, that brings us to the end of another exciting episode of Classic Gamer 74. I really hope you all enjoyed it. I sure did. Well, I did too. I always like working with you. Oh, thank you. And if you did enjoy it, don't forget to give us a great big thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. Don't forget to click that little bell icon down there so that you'll be notified when we upload new episodes. And don't forget to support us on Patreon. For as little as $1 a month, you can help this channel to grow. So please, be generous and help us out on Patreon. The link is in the description below. Now, usually this is the place where I tell people what's going to be in the next episode, whether it's going to be an AVP episode, Best of Activision, Best of Atari, whatever. But next week is going to be our 100th episode. Oh yeah, I can't believe it's finally number 100. I mean, finally, it seems like it's been quite a while, and we've been, looking forward to this. Well, yeah, but, yeah, it has been quite a while. Yeah, it has. I think in, May, it's going to be 2 years. Oh, yeah. So anyway, join us next week for our 100th episode. We're going to have some really big surprises, some big guest appearances, and some news about what's going to be happening with the channel as time goes on. Also, a big announcement that you're not going to want to miss. So don't forget, join us in our special 100th episode next week. And if you have any questions you'd like to ask us for the Q&A, let us know in the comments section below, and I will be glad to read and answer your questions in the next episode. Well, until next time, when we hit our big 100, I'm Anthony Gamer, and I'm Larry the Lion, and we will see. Wait a minute, what's that? Well, I don't want to tell anybody this, as it's kind of a surprise. What's that? Next week is going to be Mumford's 100th birthday. Okay. Anyway, I'm Anthony Gamer, and this is my friend Larry the Lion, and we will see each and every one of you in our next episode. Until then, have yourselves a great day. Goodbye. Goodbye, everyone.